Hey guys, welcome back to the Controversies with the Truth, God, and Justice Chick podcast. This is your host, Saskia Chick, and I welcome you guys back for another brand new episode of a certain topic. And thank you so much. I hope you guys enjoyed my previous episodes of this brand new baby or podcast. And so this will be a little bit, probably a little funny, of an episode. Or not funny, more informative, I guess, if you will. And I figured, since I am a German native, if you've listened to my introduction episodes of myself, you might have, you remember that I'm from Germany and I'm a German native, and I've lived in the States now for almost 15 years next month. Crazy. So crazy. And so today I thought it would be funny, or why do I keep saying funny? Or just good to, something, I don't know, fun to know, I guess. The differences, I guess, Germans versus Americans. Maybe they're, everything, I guess, from, what's the difference that I've noticed? Or, obviously a lot more than just me, a lot of other people, but just, from my perspective, from my point of view, that's obviously all I can go by is just my personal, view. So, let's start by discussing what are Germans known for. Okay, so you might be familiar with Europeans or Germans. So what was, or first, I guess I should start by what was the biggest difference for me, coming from a European country, and what was the biggest difference? So I guess the first thing you notice is, I guess, Americans tend to be more, when you're new here or foreign, I guess you could say Americans are more, not all, obviously, and it's, for lack of better word, little bit, I don't want to say, I keep thinking of the word fake, but I don't mean it in that way. And just as a side note, I feel more American than German, really. So, this is not to bash any side of this. Is it a debate, I guess? Or not debate, but I can't think of the right words at the right time. Forgive me. But yeah, this overly friendliness, or, you must you must get what I'm trying to say. It's this, like, oh, hi, how are you? Like this type of, sometimes it's obviously genuine, and then sometimes, or oftentimes, the how are you face about everything. From a German perspective, it can be a little bit, it can seem a little bit, a little too nice, overly nice, a little fake. So that's probably one of the first things you notice when you come here from a different country. Because, I guess in my home country, it's, I'm not saying that, Germans or my people or whatever are not nice or unkind, but it's definitely more, at a moderate level. Meaning, like, if you walk into a store, of course, you get greeted nicely, or most of the time anyway. But it's, I would say the difference is we are more, I don't know. I don't want to say that because then it sounds like you're dissing one side, like one, you know. In this, episode, it's about Germans and versus, or not versus. It's not, makes it sound so competitive, but like, the differences between Germans and Americans, because that's, pretty much, now I'm like half, or even, I would probably even consider myself a little bit more, maybe like 60-40, 60% American by now, since I've been a citizen for a little over a year. But yeah, in my heart, I was always American. I was always American. So anyway, yeah, so German team are probably a little bit more real. I don't want to say that, makes it sound so weird or not so nice. It's just a little bit more definitely more, I would say, direct and honest. Not, of course, I don't speak for every single person, every single German citizen, but just to get a little idea. It's definitely maybe therefore the customer service or the maybe hospitality isn't, I don't know if I can say that, but just from the, I guess, how you get greeted might not be as great in Germany, versus here when you walk into a store or a hotel or something. But that's even, I can't even say that that's 100% accurate. But, it's this overly friendliness. That's definitely a big American thing. There are some characteristics that I obviously grew up with or learned from, I guess, my parents or just growing up in Germany that are I treasure them. There's not a lot of stuff that I would say that I really, I don't know if that sounds negative again. I don't mean to sound negative or dissing, certain people or anything. You always have to say those things so that people don't assume that you're hating on, either either a group of people, or, you know what I mean? But, yeah, there's some things that I'm glad I was taught growing up, like the point that I'm proud of to this day, that, like reliability, like being very reliable, punctual, responsible, very anal. Like, I think that's what Germans probably are also known for by, like, born American or other nations, other countrymen and women. So yeah, those are definitely points, that are really good to have or to be like. It's really good to be on not just on time, but you pretty much, you say you do something, you do it, very reliable and not so wishy-washy. Or that's probably also very big thing about when you move here and you do realize, wow, doesn't mean it gets done if you get told that, it should be a universal thing, right? It shouldn't be depending on the country that you're in or you're from. You should be able to rely on the word, right? To rely on what people tell you, but that goes. Yeah, but I think that's kind of interesting too, to see hear a little bit of the differences. Of course, there's a lot more. Let's see what else I can think of right on the spot here. Probably. Let me think here for a second. By the way, as a side note, I do not come too prepared. I try to let God, or as I like to see it, or, yeah, as I like to see it, I let God put the right words in my mouth. Sometimes I'm stuttering or I'm just at a loss for words, literally. But I try to be very, that's another thing probably about me being as a German. I like to plan everything, have a routine, very, like that, right? And so sometimes I push myself out of my comfort zone by just being like, okay, let me think of a topic and click record. So very last minute, might not be, for everyone's taste. Some people might be like, oh my gosh, she's so unprofessional. Like, I can't listen to someone who's not very much on point, even if I'm German, but I'm not always on point, like with my, maybe the right words, or maybe I, stutter too much or whatever. I mean, to each, I guess I'm an acquired taste. Anyway, so yeah, so part of being German is a thing what helped me come here is that's something that I'll always carry on and, remain those certain, I guess, is it a characteristic trait or just a habit of being punctual, being not 100% anymore when you're a mother, but you try anyway. And I used to be there a lot more. Of course, for the years that I've lived here, for, 14 and a half years that I've lived here, you do loosen up a little bit on certain things where I'm like, probably not a great thing, maybe when it comes to, I don't know what, I can't even, yeah, I'm not as, like, strict with myself anymore. A little bit in some ways, but not as much. Maybe I should hold myself more accountable. Anyway, so those are probably some big points or differences you can see in both, nationalities, I guess. Definitely been more. I have gotten more like, whatever, like little, like, is it wishy-washy? I don't know what the right word is right now. Right now I can't think of it, but so when I'm like with my family from like in Germany or they're here, you do notice sometimes that, oh yeah, I have let a lot more things slide that I usually wouldn't have, or my folks will be like, why are you doing it like that, or why you do that, or better, like, then I remember, oh yeah, right, I have to be more on top of things. So it's this, I guess, my husband, or some people like to call it as like a little bit of an appropriate comment, but like a Hitler mentality, and has, you know what I mean, like not like the literal, it's not really a compliment, but like this anal, is it a dictator mentality? Maybe guilty as charged. I mean, maybe a tiny bit, yes, maybe, but yeah. I'm authentic. I mean, this is, what you see is what you get, what you hear is what you get. I don't have anything to hide, so I will even put myself on the spot, or, I have no problem with doing that, like, no problem. That's fine. I mean, and so what's, there's a lot more. I can't always remember everything that whatever episode I'm doing. After I click the, stop recording button, I usually can think of a ton more I wanted to say, so bear with me. And there might be some part twos on some episodes for, information or facts or truths that I wanted to incorporate incorporate, excuse me, in certain episodes. But I just couldn't remember them or think of those right at the time. So that must be a lot more. I don't have a script in front of me, so bear with me. What are some other points? If you have any questions or you can add to this topic, feel free to leave me some comments. That would be awesome. Yeah, I think the biggest points I've mentioned, like the biggest differences, I would say when it maybe comes to the topic or when it comes to work. So that's where it gets interesting, I would say. A little bit interesting because Americans are known to have, like, let's say, multiple jobs sometimes to support themselves or their family. Like, that's very common, right? To have multiple jobs sometimes or work very long hours. And so as Germans, I mean, we have impeccable work ethic, don't get me wrong, like, and we have great education systems and you know, but usually working more than one job is very uncommon. I think it's maybe it's very rare, I would say. Yeah, of course, unless you're really struggling. But you know, the thing you see in Germany, we have a bigger, like, it's a, you know, socialistic country, so we have a lot more government assistance when it comes to, you know, money, or so, you know, it's not a free country like here, right? So so that's another part of the differences that I might get into in this episode as well. But yeah, so when it comes to work, we're not used to in Germany to work. Unless you're maybe in the medical field, then you're used to working long shifts too. Or, of course, there's some professions or some jobs where you do that, like work long hours. But like I mentioned, working multiple jobs is very uncommon. Like, or working odd hours, unless you're like a nurse or a doctor, then it's different, or you have a night shift job. But yeah, it's, I don't know, I just had to think of that because, for example, I thought I had an example. What am I talking about? Yeah, so I think that's a difference that I've noticed living here. And yeah, it's definitely more common. I mean, it's not that teenagers in Germany don't work on the side, you know, besides or after going to school or college. But like I said, it's not as, I would say it's a little bit less common. Maybe nowadays things have changed, quite honestly. Things have probably changed since I grew up in Germany, although it hasn't been that long, but I don't know. There are more points. I know there are. Maybe it would be good to prepare before you press record, as a side note, as a side truth. Yeah, that's always a big deal, big difference. Probably as probably unimportant fact, I would say it's a lot more common to eat out in America than in Germany. Like, like even like a small little thing like that just does, you know, it's more special in Germany to eat out, as a side note. So it's not just, I know this is not really about the people itself, like about characteristic trait that's different from one country to another. But just as a side note, I just had to think of that it's way more common here to eat out multiple times a week, or like eating out like at a restaurant or something. In Germany, it's more like a special occasion type thing. Or I mean, nowadays it's probably more common too, but I just go by when I grew up in Germany, or when I last lived there, things like that. And people are probably, I guess some people would say Germans are more, I guess maybe a little more dry, like not as, I don't know, what I say, not as outgoing, and probably a little bit more private, a little bit more, I guess it depends on the person. Like, that might not be, it's just my observation. Germans are more honest and direct, definitely. Like Americans, that stigma, or that, I guess, reputation that Americans have of being, a little bit more like, maybe, I don't want to say that because it's gonna cause a lot of hate, but maybe a little bit more on the two-faced side, or fake. Not everyone, not every person, not every American citizen. And I usually tend to diss, or not diss, but like talk more negatively about actually my birth country's people or citizens, but not out of, it's just observation. It's not anything too personal. It's just that. And yeah, Germans are definitely, they don't say something they don't mean. You know what I mean? Like, they are very they're direct and honest, but they won't, of course there are some people that are still fake in Germany, or they lie, or are shady. But what I'm saying goes towards the most part. You always have to say that, so certain people will get offended, or so what else? Maybe not pertaining too much to the individual, personalities, but more like of the life in Germany. Let's move on to that part of the episode. So in Germany, for example, one big part, well, let's start by saying, like I've mentioned, like I said before, Germany is a socialistic country. We have a lot more social or government assistance, like I said before, so that you're always covered, whether you're, I don't know, lose a job, or lose your place of living, or where you live, or whatever it may be. You always get covered. I mean, here, if you lose a job, you get unemployment as well. So it's not like complete difference, but yeah, a lot more gets covered, especially when it comes to one thing that was one of the hardest things for me to get used to, or not to get used to, but one of the biggest changes when I moved here, quite honestly, or the hardest thing to wrap my mind around, was the fact that not everyone is health insured. So health insurance plays a big role in this topic, because in Germany, everyone is insured. Whether you're insured through your employer or the state, you will always have insurance. Like, you don't have to, be poor to get government insurance, or, so, but why is that? And same with retirement, and but I guess, I mean, you get, your retirement here too. I mean, not only through your 401k. I don't know. It's just, in Germany, the people that do work pay out the butt in taxes. You pay a ton of taxes. So a ton of your money goes towards the state and other people. Not the state, country, we don't have states. Yeah. So that's a big difference is, here it's, I mean, depending on the administration, a certain percentage in Germany, it's like, I forget how much, but a ton in taxes. Yeah. So therefore, you kind of get it back in forms of, government assistances and, oh yeah, you also get what's typical about Germany, you get a monthly, if you have children, a monthly tax child credit. The thing that we get here, the money that we get yearly here, right, when we file our taxes, or after we file our taxes, in Germany, per child, you get a certain amount. And even if you have, I think, more than 4 kids, it increases, and you get another amount of money for the first 2 years of this child's life. And so, yeah, but I guess amount-wise, it's almost the same as what you get here once a year, I guess. So maybe it's not even too, it's different, but it's not necessarily like completely different. So that's a big deal. And of course, there's a lot more when it comes to taxes and money and all that, which I'm not an expert about. I'm not. But that's always a big deal. Probably the health insurance part was hard to get used to, knowing that after I moved here, and my husband and I were very young. I was still a teenager when I moved here. When I moved overseas, I was still a teenager. And we got married, and he was just 20. So, or 20? No, he was 22. So he was still insured through his mom's work. Anyway, yeah, so that was hard. Although, you don't always go to the doctor every week. I wasn't like chronically ill where I needed to go to the doctor all the time. And obviously you can still go if you have to. You just, pay out of pocket. But that was a big change. I mean, there's a ton more things to say. Probably let's move on to nutrition. Our food in Germany is obviously, well, I don't want to say it's a lot healthier, because we have our sweets and our candies and stuff too. And but I would say, generally speaking, we probably eat a tiny bit healthier in Germany. Yeah, people are probably a little bit less obese, if I may say that. Don't get mad at me. I'm just saying. I'm just, stating facts. Of course, we still have obese people in Germany. I'm gonna say that, but not as many, obviously, because Germany, like a fact, is about 22 times smaller than America. So my neighbor state here that we have across the street, we have the state Maine, literally like 1 minute from my house. I can pretty much jump on the other side of the sidewalk, and we are in Maine. And Maine, I think, is the size of Germany, I think. Yeah, so just about, maybe a little bit smaller, but that's probably about right. So yeah, that pretty much explains a lot. And yeah, obviously, I mean, yeah, nutrition, we were at nutrition. So I would say we eat a little bit healthier, but I do miss our German food. What else? So education system is a big deal. That's a big deal. One of the reasons why I actually moved. Because in Germany, if, we have here, the high school goes to the 12th grade, right? And then you either go to college or you start a job or an apprenticeship. In Germany, we have different tiers of education system after I think starting in the 7th grade. And in Germany, so high school pretty much goes through to the 10th grade. And then there's an optional, depending on what tier of education you're on, like for the really smart ones, it's one tier, or the really, straight A's or B's. And more like the mainly B's and C's, there's one tier. And then for the, I guess, not so strong students, there's another tier. So for the really good students, they can go through, it's called a gymnasium, but not like gym, like physical exercise. Gymnasium means it's the best tier of education for the really smart ones. I was not in that tier or on that tier, so I did not go through till the 13th grade. So from then on, when you finish high school at 10th grade, you either move on, you don't have to, but if you're planning on going to college or university, you have to go, finish your schooling till the 13th grade. And then you pick whatever you want to study. Or in Germany, it's big to either study or do apprenticeships. So you study a profession, but not, through college, but through, the company pretty much, where you go to school, to a type of career school, whatever trade you're trying to, learn. You, I think, have like school days once or twice a week. And, that's part of the apprenticeship in Germany, which is big. So you either pretty much, if you don't either study at a college or university, or you're doing an apprenticeship, you're pretty much welfare. I mean, you're pretty much, dependent on the state, because you're never gonna have a good career. You limit your, excuse me, my mouth is dry. Let me take a quick sip. So in Germany, education is huge, and it's very big. I mean, it's big everywhere, education, but in Germany, you can't become, you can't go from a dishwasher to a millionaire. This typical American dream phrase, from a dishwasher to a millionaire. You can't do that in Germany. You can't. I know some family members of mine who did not do any of those things that I just mentioned, and they somehow, through luck or blessings, they landed a good job, which they didn't even know how. But that's a rare exception. That was like in the 80s and 90s. So, nowadays you can't, pretty much have a good job without education. You can't. So that's one of the reasons why I never agreed to that. I never agreed with that, meaning because on a personal on a personal note, or on a personal little side fact, I absolutely stunk at math. I failed math, so I pretty much had no chance of being in a good tier of education or level of education. I don't know if tier is the right word. So due to my poor math skills, and so I pretty much had no chance of, being anything on, professionally. So, yeah, it was definitely always a lot of pressure in the education area. Area of education had to be great, or, you would not be able to make good money in life in your adulthood. So yeah, that's a big big point where you're like, okay, I don't agree to that. One of the reasons why I moved. So what else do we have to talk about? So there's a lot more to say, of course, between the differences. Germany versus USA, or Germans versus Americans. Yeah, there's a lot more. Let me think. Yeah, one of the biggest points would be, to me, the difference between, the biggest point would be Americans are, to Germans, too overly nice, a little too fake, you know what I'm talking about, maybe. And I guess Germans are more sincere. They don't say I love you without really meaning it, or everything has a meaning to it, which I don't think is a bad thing. I think it's good. It's definitely, I appreciate that more than hearing that without having without any meaning to it. So that's definitely something I appreciate, and or I can appreciate. There's a lot more to it. I feel like there has to be a part 2 eventually about this subject, because I just thought, it's interesting to people, usually, the differences. And what area could we still talk about? Sports, maybe something unimportant like sports. Our national sport is soccer. And what else do we have that's kind of national? I guess we have basketball, and I'm trying to think like what would be like here is like football and baseball. Germany would definitely be the top sport. Soccer, we have basketball teams like in my home city in Germany, and hockey, we have hockey. I guess we have more like tennis and volleyball and that kind of stuff, but and nothing beats soccer. So that's all interesting. And maybe a little side fact, I don't know if it's of any interest to listen to or to hear, but like in Germany, like most people have apartments, like in big buildings. And here it's so common to have to own, or pay off a house, mortgage off a house, or rent a house. And in Germany, having a house is it's not an everyday thing. Like it's something special. Maybe it is here too, I don't know. Sometimes I'm like unsure, like, but now growing up and everything, I mean, having a house meant like, wow, you have money, or it just meant like, I don't know, had more meaning to it than here. So yeah, that's maybe a difference. If you'd go to Germany, you'd see a lot more apartments. I think. Might even be wrong. I mean, sometimes I'm just surprised that you'd think I know more about my heritage, my home country, and sometimes I'm like, I don't know if it is because I've been, away from home or my first home in so long that sometimes I seem to forget my knowledge or my information or facts about my home country. But yeah, education is huge. Without that, you can't be anything in life. Can't be anything. And I never agreed with that. I never agreed to that. I'm like, no, just because I suck at math, quite honestly, does not mean I can't, run a company, or I can't, be an entrepreneur or something like that. So yeah, that's definitely something that I never agreed to, and I wasn't gonna put up with that. Anyway, but maybe, I mean, nowadays here, of course, you do need, it's not like you don't need any degrees to, have a certain profession. I mean, it's not like that here anymore, probably, but you can still become someone big without having that degree. So yep, 41 minutes. Shall we call it part 1? Because I'm sure there's a lot more that's going to come to my mind. Like, as soon as you press record, you pretty much forget half the stuff that you wanted to say because you're just so excited to like talk, and then you talk, and then my mouth gets dry and I'm just sounding like a little off, maybe. I don't know. Here I am again, overthinking. But anyway, being a German comes with its own challenges and positive, I mean, advantages. So, positive advantages, is that a word? Whatever. Yeah, I mean, you do stand out, especially when you move to a small town in New England. It's, you do stand out with your German ways, with your preciseness and your, but I'm a lot more easygoing in certain departments that I used to be. And, one big thing that I forgot to mention. Thank you, Lord, for reminding me, is the fact, it's probably a pretty big thing. Germany, I would say, has maybe 10% of that of patriotism. Yeah. I say that because, for example, I did not know our German national anthem till I was 16 years old. We don't sing it in school when the day starts. We don't say, anything patriotic, we don't do that. So, and I don't know if it was just me. Sometimes I'm like, was it just me that just didn't know it? But I've almost never heard the national anthem. So it's, that's probably a little shocking fact that we don't have really. I think certain events maybe happen and then you hear the anthem. But like I said, up until I was a teenager or about 16, I literally did not know. So that's, it's definitely not here. Germans would probably even say, oh my gosh, every or almost every American house has their flag out, hanging out, and we don't do that. I think the only place I've seen Germany flags back home was, I think, on our ships for certain events. Like, we would have ships entering our port, because I used to live in a kind of a port city in the north. So I think, yeah. Or I don't know. Yeah, very unpatriotic in comparison, to America. I mean, wow. Yeah, so that was another big fact I wanted to mention. Yeah. But let's close it out. It's been 45 minutes. I think that shall do. And thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you have any questions or to my person or this episode, pertaining to this episode, feel free to message me, comment, under this video. And if you have any suggestions for certain topics, I'm always open to, listen to it, or, yeah. I'm always interested in you guys' feedback. So if you guys want to follow me, I'm on my main platform, social media platform on Instagram. It's at Truth, God, and Justice Chick. Same with Twitter, Truth Social, my own website, www.truthgodandjusticechick.com. You can find me there. And I would appreciate just, communication or feedback, or, this is going places. I can feel it. This is going to get its recognition because all things through Christ. And thank you guys so much for tuning in. I appreciate y'all. And until next time with another brand new topic episode. Thank you guys so much. Signing off.